have to make sure this is on. Yeah. So again, we are right now in Siman Base, also known as page 11. So last time we talked about, or in Base, we were talking about getting dressed in the morning. Right? You wake up in the morning, say Moda'ani, we talked about that, and then you get dressed. So now again, just in context, as we discussed last time, in the old days, a lot of people didn't have the luxury of having pajamas. So again, when you get up, you should get up in a way that you have the clothes draping around you, and have an awareness, and that was in base that Hashem is always there, right? So we're up to Gimel, I believe. Yedaktek b'chaluko lilbo sho kedarko. With your, now again we have to be, the Machaber says yedaktek b'chaluko. Chaluko usually means a person, yedaktek, should be careful. Bechaluko is usually referring to an outer garment, like a shirt. To wear it in its normal fashion. What does that mean in normal fashion? You shouldn't wear it inside out. Right? So, of course, there's clothes like this that, sometimes you could get a little confused. And especially if you're waking up early in the morning. Or maybe even not early in the morning. People are 90% asleep when they wake up. They're getting dressed, automatic pilot. So again, maybe you'll have the clothes inside out. So the Mishnah Berurah explains the problem here is that the tfiros, the stitching, which doesn't look nice, will be facing out, and it's not nice. People will see it, and then you look schlumpy. You look schlumpy, and the person should not look schlumpy. Now, and the Mishnah goes on that especially a Talmid Chacham has to be careful to take it off right away. Again, if it's the way you can, and put it on the proper way, because or else the very bad things. Right now, I say this often. If you're a frum Jew walking around with a yarmulke, so you got to be careful about these things, right? Even if you don't think you're a Talmid Chacham, and especially the Mishnah Berurah says during davening, not supposed to wear clothes like this or dress in such a fashion. Now the Marsham brings down from Das Kodshim that says this idea applies not just to a shirt but any article of clothing. Any clothes, any article of clothing, the Marsham says, the Das Kodshim says, that you should wear it the right way. And he says, as we'll see in a minute, it helps for zikaron. In other words, even if nobody will see it. So the classic example would be an undershirt. Right? Undershirt's very easy to wear inside out. So again, and then you'd say nobody sees it. So the whole reason for the halacha is people will see it doesn't look nice. So you'd say, so I don't have to tumble with it so much, So here we see from, at least according to the Marsham, according to Das Kodshim, it's any article of clothing. So I heard many years ago from an Adam Gadol that's why on Taz Katan, you see one side has like backing to it and one side doesn't. And the corners, I should explain. In the corners where the scissors are, it has backing on one side because to reinforce, we'll learn about it in Meretz Hashem later, to reinforce that the hole doesn't spread. So we reinforce the hole, but also they put a backing on it to strengthen it. But he was saying, I don't want to say who because it was many years ago, so maybe I'm getting it wrong, but that's why I've always been knowing that the backing goes on the inside. That's why I wear my talis cotton, that the backing goes on the, always, I try to, sometimes I might make a mistake. But in fact, right, so maybe if you hold on a second here, let me get a towel. Let me get a towel. Oh, there's a towel. Even better. So if you notice, Here, right here's a corner. Here's a corner, right? Here's the back of the corner. This side doesn't have anything on it, right? This side, for those of you who are watching, here, see, this has material. This side doesn't have material. Does not have material.
That's the inside.
So he was saying that the part with the material, right? Should be inside. You wear it on the inside, facing in, and the smooth side should be out.
Same thing with house cotton.
That's the way he was talking about house cotton. So that's the way I've always done it, for that reason. The Marsham the Das Kachim does say that if I guess this would apply by your Tal's Khan case, if you always flip it inside and out, I don't know, let's say like certain like sleeveless undershirts, maybe like there's an inside and out, but maybe it's much easier to flip it inside and out. So let's say he says, again, a Tal's Khan would be a better example, that if you always flip it inside, you don't have an inside and out, so then you can wear it whatever way you want. But again, a lot of times, I think the best example of this halakha would be an undershirt, a sleeved undershirt. So again, there's a back, and there's an inside, and there's an outside. And so you should wear it the proper way. And then the Mishnah Berurah says something very interesting. He says, he brings from the Rambam, Malbush Talmid Chacham Yehei Malbush No'eh V'Naki. The clothes of a Talmid Chacham should always be neat and clean. So I always remember the Rashi was very, very neat and clean. His clothes were very, I still remember, I wasn't there, but the year we were in Eretz Yisrael, so the big guns of the yeshiva used to go around to old Slobodkaniks to talk to them about Slobodka. So I had to leave early for a medical reason. Baruch Hashem, turned out to be false, but a false alarm. But still, I had to get checked out. But I arranged that one of the people they went to was Rav Dov Katz. He wrote. He was a Talmid Slobodka, and he wrote the famous Tnuas HaMusar. It's an encyclopedia on the Musar movement. I have it at home, Baruch Hashem. And I think it might be out of print now, I'm not sure. So he also wrote a volume, Pulmus HaMusar, about the war against Musar. After Rabbi Yisrael was Nifter, there was a disagreement about Musar. So he wrote a separate, it was part of the set, but, not part of the set, it was a separate sefer, but it was part of the. So I remember Rabbi Luban, and when my boys were in Miami, heard I had it, so he asked if he could borrow it, and I said no. We're very close friends, but I said no because it's out of print. And I don't want, I don't care who it is. So maybe if the Rashiva asked for it. So they told me when I met up with them in New York and Elul, so they reported back to me about the meeting with Rav Dov Katz, and they told me that as soon as he walked in, they were in awe. He walked in, they said he was regal. Now this is going to be important for later, because we're going to learn about this, about not walking in a gaivadik way. He didn't Chas v'Shalom a million times walk in a gaivadik way, but he just comported himself. And I still remember Rabbi Luban and Rabbi Grunwald said, not a hair on his beard was out of place. It was like regal. Now again, it's not Gashmi, but that's the way, again, a Talmid Chacham is supposed to look. It's supposed to be it's a big thing in Slobodka about how you dress and how very, very important. So again, that's very important. We have to realize whether, like I said before, whether we realize it or not, you walk around with a yarmulke, so you're a rabbi. So, okay, let's go on to Daled, yes, famous halacha. You're probably all familiar with this halacha. Yin al min al yamin tchila. You should put on your right shoe first. But you don't tie it. V'achar kach, and then afterwards, yin al shel small. Then you put on the left shoe. Put on the left shoe, right? V'yikshrena, and you tie the left shoe. V'yachzar v'yikshar shal yamin, and then you go back and tie the right. So what's going on here? Now I still remember, somebody said to me once, does God really care which? So I gave my own reason. This is not the reason. But I said, it's an amazing thing to me, because a lot of people stress out about every little thing. Believe it or not, which shoe do I put on first? What do I wash first? What I did? And we'll see what part of you buy. It's all taken care of. It's decided for you. Don't freak out about it. It's all decided. Now, Baruch Hashem, we don't have this problem anymore, but when it came to plastic and paper, that I don't know what to answer. But anyways, but here we see that, it does make a difference, because there's reasons for doing this. So the Mishnah Berurah says that you put on the right shoe first, because the Mishnah Berurah says, because we see in the Torah the right, to the dismay of people as myself who are left-handed, but still, you can't deny that the right is more chashuv. The right is always more important. Why? Because we see in various things, let's say, with a metzora or things, they always put stuff on the right thumb, on the right ear lobe, on the right. So therefore, we see you should put the right before the left. Now, see again, you have to be careful. The halacha is saying that we see universally the right is better than the left. In other words, it's not subjective based upon the person. The Torah says the right is more important. So therefore, we put on the right shoe first. So then the question is, why don't you tie the right shoe first? So the Mishnah Berurah involved says, no, because as far as tying is concerned, the Torah gives chashivas to the left. Right? Correct? Because we tie tefillin, right? The tefillin shel yad goes on the left. It's tied on the left. So we'll talk about that. Now, two more points the Mishnah Berurah makes. Let's say you have slip-ons. Right? A lot of people wear slip-ons or loafers, or not to say somebody's a loafer, but again, they wear them, not they act in such a way. So then he says, you just put on the right. You just put on the right. And here's the point. Then the Mishnah Berurah also says that a lefty, such as the fortunate few like myself, so then, now again, by putting on the right is universally more important. The left is tied first because as far as tying, for most people, unfortunately, the left is more important. But for me, the right is more important for tying because I put my tefillin on my right arm. So taka. So the Mishnah Berurah says that a lefty puts on I tie the right first. So again, for most people, you put on the right, then put on the left, tie the right. For me, and one of my daughters and two of my grandchildren, we put on the right, we tie the right, then we put on the left and tie the left. Because again, we're talking about tying, and tying is subjective. It depends on tefillin, and tefillin depends on how you tie. So therefore you do that. Okay, back upstairs. So the Ramah adds on, as I mentioned before, that if there's shoes that do not have tying, right? Like loafers, or Chaim's moving to Dallas, so he offered to buy me cowboy boots. He's already getting into it. So things like that do not have ties, so you just put on the right. Now the Mishnah Berurah says that, let's say you had the left shoe, so he said you have the left shoe first, right? Maybe the right shoe is somewhere else. So he says, don't put on the left shoe. Wait until you get the right shoe and put it on first. And then he also, the Mishnah Berurah also says in Zion that when you wash, when you bathe, you should do the right first. You should do the right first, as we know when we're. And he says, but let's say you're shampooing or anointing, right? Something like that. So you should do your head first, because the head is the melech. We saw this in Orchat Tzadikim last Shabbos, or a few Shabbosim ago. The head comes first because it's more chashuv. Again, and that's an idea that we see something throughout halacha that whatever is more chashuv comes first, obviously. Now, again, in our society, that is looked askance upon, but again, there is more chashuv and less chashuv. Okay, so let's go on. Let's go on to right. So let's go on to Avav. Again, hey. When you take off your shoes, you take off the left shoe first. So why is that? So if you look at the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim says, "Shezehu kavodo shel yamin," because this is the kavod. It's more kavodic to the right, meaning that it's covered longer. Right? That it's covered longer. So to be uncovered is not as nice, right? More important things are covered, despite what society says. Things that are more chashuv are covered. So therefore, we leave the right covered longer. So therefore, you take off the left shoe first, and then the right shoe. Now let's do Vav very quickly. Also, this is what I was referring to before. Also, leilek become as a kufa. You're not supposed to walk with a very ramrod posture. Now, again, this is very misunderstood. Well, let's stop there. And Mishnah Berurah says, even in your house, still shouldn't. Now, we have a Masorah from the altar. The altar had walked very. But again, what we're talking about, the Masorah I have is like people who walk. I haven't seen in a long time. When we were kids, remember people used to walk with, practice walking with books on their head, right? That's different than walking. In other words, you shouldn't walk bent over, and that's not what the halacha is talking about. You're supposed to walk like. In fact, I was walking down the street a few weeks ago, and there's a woman. She has a bunch of dogs, and she walks them down Cassia. So I say hello to her, and Jewish lady. So she said she's a physical therapist, and she said, "Rabbi, you're beginning to slouch. You have to, it's not good posture." So right, so she's not right. You shouldn't slouch. But on the other hand, so what our Masorah is not to walk like like a hoity-toity person, right? But that's different than walking schlumped. Like you walk with proper posture, and it's the right. It's good for your health, anyways. But yeah. Okay, Emir Hashem, we'll pick this up tomorrow. Bli neder. Okay, Ashkach everyone minchas in 10 minutes.
When the Mala told you to take off your shoe.
Both.
No. But Moshe made it was but your shoe was one. All the commentaries talk about it.
Does it really? That's interesting. I don't know.
In the fifth pair with Yosha, nobody says it's the right shoe or the left shoe.
See, I made a mistake.
Your shoe is on the Mala. Moshe made it so